When the fire broke out at the banquet, Bernard rushed to save his first-loved son and shoved our daughter aside. The last glimmer of light in our daughter's eyes, who had always longed for her father's love, went out. After I desperately rescued our daughter, she looked at me with calm eyes and said, "Mom, I am willing to leave Dad with you. Let's go somewhere he'll never find us." The moment the screams pierced my eardrums, I was holding Lily's hand, standing beneath the ornately decorated dome of the school auditorium. It was the annual charity gala at a Manhattan private school, the air thick with the mingled scent of expensive perfume and champagne. Then the fire alarm's shrill beeping blared without warning, followed by someone shouting, "There is a shooter!" The once elegant crowd instantly turned into a herd of startled beasts. Chaos crashed over us like a tsunami. I stumbled as the crowd surged against me, gripping Lily's wrist for dear life, instinctively looking toward my husband beside me. "Bernard, take Lily and go!" I screamed, my voice swallowed by the noise. Bernard was less than 2 meters away from me. Tall and strong, he had once been the most solid pillar for me and our daughter. He heard my cry for help and turned around, but those blue-gray eyes that once gazed at me with such tenderness were now filled with panic and resolve. But he wasn't looking at me, nor at Lily, whose face was frozen in terror. His gaze passed over us, locking onto a mother and son not far away who had collapsed on the ground and were trembling. Serena and her son Noah. What happened next sent my 5-year marriage straight to the guillotine. Bernard pushed against the flow of people and rushed over. A flicker of hope rose in my heart, thinking he was coming to save us. But when he rushed up to me because Lily was blocking his path to Serena, he almost instinctively, without any hesitation, reached out his hand and shoved his own biological daughter out of his way. "Get out of the way," he roared. Lily was flung aside like a rag doll, her small body slamming against the hard marble pillar. Mommy Lily's cry was drowned out before it could even leave her mouth. And my husband, Bernard, the man who had once sworn to protect me and our daughter with his life, didn't even spare a glance at his daughter lying on the ground. With a sweep of his long arms, he scooped up Noah, already 8 years old and sturdier than Lily, while his other hand held Serena tightly, shielding her like a priceless treasure as he shouldered through the crowd and rushed toward the emergency exit without looking back. In that instant, I felt all the blood in my body freeze. I rushed over like a madwoman and scooped up Lily. Blood was gushing down her smooth forehead, staining the white lace dress she had carefully picked out. She didn't cry, just stared wide, almost blankly at the direction her father had disappeared. "Bernard," she called out weakly. No one looked back. Only a heartless silhouette. At that moment, I knew my family was ruined. 2 hours later, the emergency room at Presbyterian Hospital. Lily got 5 stitches on her forehead. When the doctor treated the wound, she didn't make a sound. That deathly silence, so beyond her years, twisted my heart like a knife. Bernard didn't show up until after the nurse left. He looked somewhat disheveled, the cuffs of his expensive tailored suit torn, but that didn't diminish his self-righteous arrogance at this moment. "How is Lily?" He stood outside the curtain, his tone devoid of urgency, only a perfunctory coldness. I took a deep breath, pulled open the curtain, and looked coldly at this man I had loved for 7 whole years. "She got 5 stitches, it might scar." I pointed at the glaring bandage on my daughter's forehead. "When you pushed her, did you even think for 1 second that she is your daughter?" Bernard frowned, an expression I had become all too familiar with over the past 3 months. Impatience, disgust, as if looking at an unreasonable clown making a scene. The situation was urgent. Noah was showing early signs of an asthma attack, and Serena couldn't carry him by herself. He unbuttoned his collar and said matter-of-factly, "Elena, when did you become so cold-blooded? Lily just got some superficial wounds while Noah almost died." "Superficial wounds?" I laughed in anger, tears welling up in my eyes, but I forced them back. "You pushed her into the pillar with your own hands. She is your own flesh and blood." Bernard's expression darkened. He stepped closer, looking down at me condescendingly, his eyes filled with that chilling scrutiny and contempt. "Stop acting, Elena." He lowered his voice to a volume only the 2 of us could hear. "This is karma back then. You used your family's power to force Serena to leave, making her suffer so much abroad, even having to marry an abuser. You owe her, and Lily, as the daughter of the one who benefited, owes Noah too. This little injury is just paying off your debt. This same old story again. 3 months ago, Serena returned to the country, and Bernard became like a different person. He firmly believed that I was the one who meddled back then, breaking up this pair of star-crossed lovers. Firmly believed that I was a scheming woman who used every trick to climb up. No matter how I explained, he just saw it as making excuses. The Bernard who once flew to Paris just because I mentioned wanting a croissant, the Bernard who would warm my feet late at night, seemed to have died overnight. In his place was a tyrant controlled by paranoid delusions. I looked at him, suddenly feeling utterly exhausted. Explanations were meaningless now. When you've been deemed a sinner, even breathing is wrong. Fine. I nodded, my voice so calm it surprised even myself. Since you think this is repaying a debt, then from today on I owe you nothing. Bernard froze for a moment, seemingly not expecting me to stop arguing so quickly. But the contempt in his eyes didn't fade. Instead, it was as if he had seen through my trick. Don't play this retreat. To advance game with me, I am not falling for it. He glanced at his watch. Serena and her son were frightened. I am worried, so I am bringing them to stay at the Hamptons villa tonight. It is to help Serena hide from that crazy ex-husband of hers. I have a responsibility to protect them. I didn't argue back, didn't even question why he was letting his first love move into our home. I turned and walked through the curtain, embracing Lily, who was still in a daze. Mommy Lily buried her face in my arms, her voice soft but clear. Let's go to a place without Daddy. I discreetly wiped away the tear that slipped from the corner of my eye and kissed the top of her head. Okay, Lily, Mommy promises you. Bernard stood outside the curtain, thinking my silence was another compromise and submission. What he didn't know was that this time I was really leaving. By the time I returned to the villa in Hampton, it was already late at night. The house that should have been quiet was now brightly lit. Bernard had even arrived home before us because he rode in Serena's car. As soon as I walked in, I saw the boy named Noah bouncing around on the expensive Persian rug in the living room with his shoes on, clutching a chocolate-covered cookie in his hand. Crumbs were scattered everywhere. Serena was sitting on the single sofa that originally belonged to me, a reading chair Bernard had custom, made for me from Italy 3 years ago. He said that spot had the best lighting, perfect for my painting. At this moment, Serena was wrapped in a cashmere blanket, holding a cup of hot cocoa, looking delicately at Bernard, who was pouring juice for Noah. Bernard, this is really too much trouble for you. If it weren't for my ex-husband threatening to kill me, I really wouldn't want to disturb your lives. Her voice trembled, tears welling in the corners of her eyes. That pitiful appearance was indeed very likely to arouse a man's protective instincts. This is my home, you can stay as long as you want. Bernard's voice was so gentle it made me feel dazed. That was the tone he once reserved exclusively for me. Seeing me and Lily with bandages wrapped around her head. Come in, Serena stood up like a startled deer, dramatically covering her mouth. Oh my God, is Lily hurt? I am sorry, Elena. It was too chaotic back then. Bernard was just too worried about Noah. Please don't blame him. Her mouth was saying sorry, but her eyes flickered with a victor's provocation. That look was all too familiar to me. Back in college, she used that same innocent face to steal all my friends, and even tried to steal my academic credits. Bernard turned around, saw the bandage on Lily's forehead. His eyes flickered for a moment, but were quickly replaced by coldness. Take Lily back to her room to rest. Don't stand here, it'll make Serena feel uncomfortable. He said to me coldly. In this house, my daughter was hurt. Yet he was worried about whether an outsider felt comfortable. I held Lily's hand, stepped around the mess all over the floor, and prepared to go upstairs. Wait, Noah suddenly shouted, pointing at a plush toy Lily was clutching tightly in her arms. I want that teddy bear. That was the birthday gift Bernard gave Lily last year, a limited edition antique teddy bear. It was Lily's most treasured possession. Even when she went to the hospital to get stitches just now, she had been holding it tightly and never let go. Bernard frowned slightly. Noah, that is your sister's thing. I want it. I want it. Noah started rolling around on the sofa, his screams piercing. I have asthma. I'll have an attack if I am upset. Cough, cough, cough. Serena immediately hugged her son with a panicked expression, tears coming on cue. Bernard, look at Noah. He was really scared today. The doctor said he can't handle stress. It is just a doll. Lily has so many toys. She looked at me, her eyes pleading, yet carrying the sharp blade of moral blackmail. Bernard's brow furrowed even tighter. He looked at me, or rather at Lily, and reached out his hand. Lily, give the teddy bear to your brother. Lily looked up in disbelief, her small body trembling. But Daddy, you gave this to me. Don't be so stingy. Bernard impatiently cut her off, walked right over, and snatched the teddy bear from Lily's arms. It is just a doll. Your brother is a guest, and a sick one too. You need to learn to share. Lily's hands still held their grasping position, hanging empty in midair. Her eyes had reddened, but she bit her lip, refusing to let the tears fall. Bernard handed the teddy bear to Noah. The child immediately stopped his fake coughing, smugly grabbed one of the teddy bear's legs and swung it around forcefully right in front of us. Bernard. Serena broke into a smile through her tears, looking at him gratefully. You are so sweet, actually, this brand of teddy bear. I remember mentioning to you back in college that I really liked it. I didn't expect you to still remember. Bernard looked at Serena, his gaze becoming soft and complicated. Of course I remember. Everything you like I remember. When I bought this, it was also because I thought it suited you. That sentence was like a slap, hitting me and Lily hard across the face. So it turns out, the gift my daughter treasured like a precious jewel was nothing but a substitute for his love for another woman. It turns out that over these 5 years, what I thought were happy little details were all him looking through me, missing someone else. I felt Lily's small hand turn ice cold in my palm. Mommy, I don't want it anymore. Lily suddenly spoke, her voice calm in a way that didn't sound like a 7-year-old. I don't want things that have been dirtied. With that, she didn't spare the teddy bear another glance, and pulled me straight upstairs. From behind came Bernard's furious scolding. Elena, look at what you've turned our daughter into, cold, selfish, exactly like you. The moment I closed the door, I shut out all those vicious accusations. I crouched down, looking at my daughter's eyes at her level, eyes that held no tears. Lily, I am sorry. It is okay, Mommy. Lily reached out and touched my face. I was planning to throw away all this garbage anyway. She walked to her walk-in closet and took out the suitcase we had hidden deep inside the cabinet long ago. Mom, our cabin in Aspen should be snowing by now, right? I watched my daughter skillfully start packing only a few necessary clothes, not even taking any of the expensive toys Bernard had bought her. Yes, it is snowing there. I smiled, and the last trace of attachment I had for Bernard in my heart completely turned to ashes along with the laughter and merriment coming from downstairs. That night, neither Lily nor I slept. We were like two silent conspirators, waiting in the darkness for dawn to arrive. The commotion downstairs didn't stop until the early hours of the morning. Early the next morning, when Bernard saw us at the dining table, he seemed somewhat surprised by our calmness. Today I am taking Noah to handle his enrollment procedures and bringing Serena to get some daily necessities while I am at it, he said while drinking his coffee, completely not mentioning pushing down our daughter and snatching her doll yesterday. I have a business dinner tonight, so I won't be back for dinner. Tomorrow is Lily's birthday. I reminded him lightly. Bernard's hand holding the coffee cup paused for a moment. In the past, Lily's birthday was the day he valued the most, and he would start preparing a month in advance. I know. He somewhat unnaturally avoided my gaze. I'll make time tomorrow. I'll come back in the evening to cut the cake with Lily, okay? I didn't expose the guilt in his eyes. Oh, right. He put down his cup, his gaze sweeping over an oil painting hanging on the living room wall. It was a sketch I made by the Seine River in Paris during our honeymoon, which he later had someone frame and hung in the most prominent spot. take that painting down," he suddenly said. "Serena said the style of that painting is too depressing, and that is the composition and brushwork she used back in college. Elena, you are still imitating her even now. Don't you find that disgusting?" I looked at that painting. It was my heart and soul, a testament to my love for him. But in his eyes now, I was a clumsy plagiarist, a thief who stole someone else's soul. If it were before, I would have been furious, would have argued, would have produced evidence to prove it was my original work. But now, I just calmly walked over and took down the painting. "Since you find it disgusting, then just throw it away." Right in front of him, I placed the frame face down beside the trash can. Bernard seemed not to expect me to be so compliant. He opened his mouth as if wanting to say something, but in the end just let out a cold snort. "At least you know your place." Watching his retreating figure as he left with Serena and her child, the husband who once deeply loved me completely died in my memory. Just 24 more hours. Once tomorrow night passes, this long nightmare will be over. At 10 in the morning, I took Lily to her school to handle the withdrawal procedures. This is a top-tier private girls' school located in Manhattan's Upper East Side, where every spot is extremely precious. Back then, to get Lily enrolled, Bernard donated a library building. When I walked into the principal's office, I unexpectedly spotted a familiar face. Bernard was sitting there, with Serena beside him, and that annoying little brat Noah was spinning around in the principal's leather chair. He stopped in my tracks, and before I could back out, the principal had already spotted me and came over enthusiastically. "Mrs. Hoffman, you've arrived at just the right time." The principal obviously misunderstood something, looking at Bernard with a fawning expression. "Mr. Hoffman is so generous, he just expressed willingness to donate another scholarship fund, so that this," he glanced at the documents, "young Noah can transfer in." So the so-called handling enrollment procedures was using his connections at Lily's school to pull strings for his first love son. When Bernard saw me, his expression instantly turned sour. He obviously didn't expect to run into me here. "Why are you here?" He lowered his voice, his tone carrying the irritation of being caught. "Didn't I tell you to stay home? I came to give Lily." Before I could finish, Serena interrupted me. "Oh my, Elena, don't misunderstand." Serena came over affectionately, trying to link arms with me, but I sidestepped to avoid her. Bernard saw that Noah doesn't have a dad, and was worried he'd get bullied at school, so he thought of putting him in the same school as Lily, so she could look out for him. She deliberately emphasized the words, "doesn't have a dad," but her eyes were implying that Bernard was the one who was truly like a father. The principal was a shrewd man, and he too sensed the strange atmosphere at this moment. He rubbed his hands awkwardly. Mr. Hoffman, since Noah is enrolling, the guardian column, just put me," Bernard said without hesitation. "I am his godfather." Noah suddenly jumped off the chair and shouted loudly, "I don't want godfather. Mommy said Uncle Bernard is daddy. I want to write daddy." The air froze instantly. Bernard didn't refute, just gently rubbed Noah's head. Noah stopped being silly. But his tone was full of indulgence without a trace of reproach. I felt Lily's grip on my hand tighten again. She looked up at the man who was radiating fatherly love towards another child. Those eyes that had once promised to protect her forever now couldn't see her at all. To break the awkwardness, the principal turned to look at Lily. "Lily, Noah will be your classmate from now on. You should take care of him like a real little brother." "Okay, after all, Mr. Hoffman is both of your—" "No, he is not," a crisp voice interrupted the principal's attempt to smooth things over. Lily let go of my hand and took a step forward. She wore a neat school uniform, her spine ramrod straight, and the gauze on her forehead gave her an air of broken resilience. She stared straight at Bernard, the grievance from yesterday gone from her eyes, leaving only a deathly, icy stillness. "Principal, you've got it wrong." Lily spoke with perfect enunciation, her voice echoing through the office. "Mr. Bernard is Noah's father, not mine." Bernard whipped his head around, staring at his daughter in disbelief. "Lily, what nonsense are you spouting?" "I am not spouting nonsense." Lily looked calmly at her enraged father. "Just yesterday, when the fire alarm went off, my father died. The current Mr. Bernard is just this auntie's boyfriend, and this boy's dad. You. Bernard raised his hand in fury, as if wanting to slap this insolent daughter. I stepped forward in one stride, blocking Lily, and stared coldly at Bernard. Try laying a finger on her. Bernard's hand froze in midair, his chest heaving violently with rage. He pointed at me, his finger trembling. Greet, Elena, so this is the good daughter you've raised. To embarrass me, you actually instigated her to disown her father in public. How can you be so scheming? In his eyes, his daughter's despair was my instigation. His daughter's pain was my scheming. Think whatever you want. I took out the documents I had prepared long ago and slapped them directly on the principal's desk. I am here to withdraw Lily from school. Since this place is about to become someone's paradise, it is no longer suitable for Lily. Withdraw, Bernard froze, then let out a cold laugh. Are you crazy? This is the best school in all of New York. You are using our daughter's future to threaten me. Elena, you think I'll bow down to you and kick Serena out because of this dream on? He still firmly believed that everything I did was out of jealousy to win back his heart. He had no idea that when a woman stops arguing, stops crying, and starts calmly handling assets and documents, it means the end. Just sign it, Bernard. I pointed to the Guardian column. This is the last time you'll need to sign as her father. Bernard stared at the document, a flash of panic in his eyes, but it was quickly masked by anger. He scrawled his name with such force, it nearly tore through the paper, as if venting his rage. Fine, I'll sign. Take Lily and get lost to reflect on yourselves. When she learns to respect her elders, then she can come begging me to re-enroll her. He slammed down the pen. Forget about tonight's birthday too. Since she doesn't acknowledge me as her father, I don't need to put a warm face on a cold ass. Serena covered her mouth and snickered from the side, then said with fake concern, Bernard, don't be like this. The child doesn't know any better. I put away the documents, took Lily's hand, and walked out without looking back. Don't bother. When I reached the door, I stopped, my back facing them, and said, We won't come begging you again, never. Walking out of the school gate, the cold wind of New York hit me in the face. Lily lifted her head, sunlight falling on her bandaged forehead. Mommy, was I brave just now? I crouched down, hugging her tightly, tears finally bursting from my eyes uncontrollably. Brave, Lily is the bravest baby. Then can we go to the airport now? Yes. I wiped away my tears and stood up. We'll go home to get our luggage, then fly far, far away. This was our last day in New York. Bernard thought he was punishing us with his coldness, thought that as long as he crooked his finger, we'd come crawling back like before. But he didn't know this time there was no turning back. 7 o'clock that evening, the villa in the Hamptons was filled with a suffocating silence. Bernard hadn't come back, although he had said those harsh words at school. No birthday then. I knew Lily still held on to that last one, in 10,000 hope in her heart. After all, that was the dad she had loved deeply for 7 years. I set out the cake on the dining table, not the expensive fondant cake Bernard would order every year, the kind meant to look good for social media photos, but Lily's favorite, a strawberry cream cake I made myself. Time ticked by second, the clock on the wall pointed to 8, 9, 10. The phone buzzed. It was a text from Bernard. No explanation, no apology. Just a photo. The photo showed the dim lighting of a guest room. Noah was lying in bed with a flushed face, a cooling patch on his forehead. Bernard sat by the bedside holding a storybook, reading to him with a loving expression. Serena leaned against Bernard's shoulder, holding a glass of water. The scene was as heartwarming as an oil painting titled, Happy Family. Right after came a text message. Noah has a fever, the fright caused complications. I can't get away tonight. We'll make up Lily's birthday later. She doesn't want to see me anyway. Looking at this text, I actually laughed out loud. This is my husband. When his own daughter was getting stitches on her forehead, all he cared about was whether his first love's son was frightened. When his own daughter wanted to celebrate her birthday with him for the last time, he chose to stay with that brat faking sick mom. He is not coming back, is he? Lily sat across the table. She hadn't looked at the phone yet, seemed to have known everything all along. The cake in front of her was untouched. The candles on top had burned out completely, leaving only a pool of solidified wax. Yes, he is not coming back. I put down the phone this time. My heart was completely calm, like a pool of stagnant water. Lily nodded. There was no sadness on her face, only a sense of relief beyond her years. She hopped off the chair and walked to the empty corner where the teddy bear used to be, the spot Noah had snatched away yesterday. Mom, I am not making a wish anymore. She turned around to look at me, her eyes startlingly bright under the lights. Because my wish has already come true. What is it? My wish was for Mom to turn back into that Elena who could paint and laugh out loud, instead of a bitter woman revolving around Dad all day. Lily walked over and hugged my waist. Mom, even without Dad, we'll definitely be fine, right? I froze. So all these years, my endurance, grievances, and cautiousness, my daughter had seen it all. I thought I was giving her a complete family, but in reality I was only letting her watch her mother wither away. Yes, I hugged her back tightly, resting my chin on top of her head. We'll be just fine, 1,000 times better than now. I held Lily's hand and went upstairs. In the master bedroom, I had already packed everything. The jewelry and designer bags Bernard had given me were all left neatly in the walk-in closet. I didn't take a single piece. Although those things were expensive, every single one reflected his preferences for Serena. The pink diamonds Serena liked, the crocodile leather Serena liked, the vintage style Serena liked. I only took my passport, a few simple changes of clothes, and that sketchbook I had drawn in for 5 years. The growth diary I had drawn for Lily every day since she was born. Before leaving, I took off the wedding diamond ring from my ring finger. This ring was given to me 5 years ago when he proposed to me. I was pregnant with Lily then, and he had just made a comeback after going bankrupt. No flowers, no getting down on one knee. He just tossed the ring to me and said, "Since you are pregnant, let's just get married. I need a wife anyway." Back then, I thought he was just bad with words because of his career setback. Thought that as long as I loved him enough, I could warm his heart. Looking back now, it was nothing more than his charity to someone who forced him into marriage. I placed the ring on the nightstand, pressing it on top of the divorce agreement I had already signed. The agreement was simple. I gave up all the shares in Bernard's company, gave up all that pocket money he had deposited into my account over the years. I only wanted custody of Lily, and the trust fund my parents left me. That was my only safety net, and also why Bernard always thought I couldn't leave him. He thought I was a vine clinging to him, forgetting that before I met him, I was also Elena who had made a name for myself in Manhattan. Let's go. I pulled up the suitcase. The sound of wheels rolling across the floor echoed through the empty villa. It was snowing heavily outside, the wind howling and beating against the windows. Lily and I walked out the door and got into the Uber I had called earlier. The car started and drove into the vast night. I didn't look back at that mansion once. I knew that tomorrow morning, when Bernard wakes up from Serena's tender embrace, expecting to enjoy my breakfast and service as usual, what would greet him would be a room of cold, dead silence. Goodbye, Bernard. May you forever drown in this web of lies you wove with your own hands. The car headed toward JFK Airport. We waited in the lounge for the private jet to Aspen to take off. Outside the window, New York's countless lights glittered like a river of stars, yet not a single one was left on for me anymore. But I didn't feel lonely. I looked at Lily sleeping beside me, my heart feeling freer than ever before. This 7-year, long unrequited love finally came to an end in tonight's heavy snow. From now on, I am Lily's mom, and also a brand new Elena. As for that man named Bernard, he will become completely a thing of the past. I just didn't expect karma to come so fast. Right as my plane took off, a massive conspiracy targeting Bernard was quietly unfolding in that warm guest room. The next morning, the snow in Manhattan had stopped. Sunlight glared down on the snow-covering Hampton Beach, refracting into a dazzling white. Bernard was woken up by hunger. He rubbed his sleepy eyes and walked out of the guest room, habitually heading toward the dining room. Usually at this time, the air should be filled with the aroma of freshly ground coffee and toasted bread. Elena would be wearing an apron, smiling, and asking him how he slept last night, then handing him a glass of water at just the right temperature. But today, all that greeted him was cold air and deathly silence. The kitchen was cold with unused pots and stoves, the dining table completely empty. The untouched strawberry cake from last night was still sitting in the same spot. The cream had collapsed, looking like a melted corpse, giving off a sickeningly sweet, spoiled smell. "Elena," Bernard frowned, calling out with displeasure. No one responded. "Throwing a tantrum again," he muttered, anger suddenly flaring up inside him. In his opinion, Elena's withdrawal from school yesterday and the strike today were just little tricks to get his attention. She always did this. Whenever she felt wronged, she would protest in this silent way, forcing him to give in. But this time, he would never compromise. "Bernard." Serena came down the stairs wearing that ill-fitting silk nightgown. It was Elena's nightgown. She rubbed her eyes, looking languid and coquettish. "What is wrong? Is Elena not home? I want a cup of coffee." Bernard looked at the nightgown on her that originally belonged to his wife, and an inexplicable flash of discomfort passed through his heart, but it was quickly suppressed. Maybe she took Lily out. He took out his phone and dialed Elena's number. "Sorry, the number you have dialed is powered off." The cold mechanical female voice made him freeze for a moment. Powered off. Elena never turned off her phone in these 5 years, even at 3 in the morning. As long as he called, she would answer within 3 rings. A strange sense of panic crept up his spine like a venomous snake. Unwilling to give up, he dialed again, still powered off. "This is getting more and more out of line," Bernard cursed, striding upstairs and pushing open the master bedroom door. The room was excessively tidy, as if no one had ever lived there. The curtains were drawn open, sunlight pouring unobstructed onto the large bed. He walked to the bedside and immediately spotted the diamond ring glinting with cold light on the nightstand, along with several sheets of paper underneath it. It was a divorce agreement. Bernard picked it up, his eyes scanning those cold clauses line by line, finally settling on the elegant, yet resolute signature at the end. Elena Vance. She had signed it and she was leaving with nothing, only taking Lily. Impossible. Bernard's hands trembled slightly, the papers rustling loudly. This can't be. He yanked open the walk-in closet door. At that moment, the overwhelming sense of emptiness struck his chest like a heavy hammer. The half of the closet belonging to Elena was mostly empty, but what remained were all designer coats, evening gowns, and those expensive handbags he had bestowed upon her, while the comfortable cashmere sweaters and casual pants she usually wore were all gone. Lily's room was the same. All the toys were there. Even the teddy bear that Noah had snatched was lying alone on the carpet, with one eye fallen off. It had been deliberately gouged out by Noah yesterday. Other than that, Lily had taken all her books and that old picture album she always held in her arms. They were gone. Without any warning, without any fuss, just like last night's snow, silently covering everything, then vanishing with the wind. "Bernard, what is wrong?" Serena followed up, seeing the empty closet and Bernard's pale face. A barely noticeable flash of wild joy flickered in her eyes, but she put on a frightened expression. "Elena ran away from home." "She didn't run away from home." Bernard gritted his teeth, staring fixedly at that diamond ring. "She is really gone." He suddenly remembered what I said at the school gate yesterday. "We won't come begging you again, never." At the time, he just took it as words spoken in anger. Looking back now, the calmness in that tone was clearly a farewell. "Where could she go?" Bernard paced anxiously around the room. "Her trust fund has some money, but it won't last long in a place like New York, and she doesn't have a job. Where could she go with a child back to her parents' old house, or go stay with old friends?" He suddenly realized that he knew nothing about Elena's life over these 5 years. He didn't know her friends, didn't know what she liked besides painting, and couldn't even remember where exactly her parents' old house was. He wandered around the house like a headless fly, trying to find any clues about where Elena might have gone. Suddenly, his gaze fell on the stairs leading to the attic. That was where Elena usually stored her paintings and miscellaneous items. He rarely went up there because it was always piled with paintings that irritated him, those he dismissed as imitations of Serena. As if guided by some unseen force, he climbed up to the attic. The attic was also a complete mess. Many frames had been removed, and papers were scattered all over the floor. Clearly, Elena had sorted through things here before she left. Bernard casually picked up a sketch lying on the floor. It was a pencil drawing of a man reading in a library shown in profile. It was Bernard from their college days. In the bottom right corner of the drawing was a line of small text, "To be, a ray of light at first sight." The 18th of September 2015. Bernard's hand suddenly trembled violently. The 18th of September 2015, that was the day he first exchanged emails with that mysterious online friend in the library. He remembered clearly that at the time he had described a book he was reading in an email, and that online friend replied, "I am sitting not far from you, and the light is falling just right on your profile." Serena later told him that she had written it. But this painting, the brushstrokes of this painting were delicate, the light and shadow handling superb. Only someone with exceptional talent could paint something like this. And Serena, she didn't even know how to hold a brush. Bernard's heart began to pound. He frantically dug through the pile of junk and found a dust-covered old cardboard box. There was nothing else in the box, just manuscripts, letter drafts, and photography negatives. He opened a letter draft with trembling hands. "Dear Bernard, today you said you liked that poem, 'To the Oak Tree.' But actually I was the one who translated it for you." That was Elena's handwriting. He picked up a negative and held it up to the light. It was a landscape photo he had received during their online relationship, showing a corner of the campus. He had always thought Serena took it, since Serena was the president of the photography club back then. But on the edge of the negative, written in fine marker, "Photo by Elena." Boom! Bernard felt something explode inside his head. All these letters, all these sketches, all these photographs, they were all Elena's. For these 5 years, the soul he had fallen in love with, the soul who discussed poetry, philosophy, and art with him, had always been Elena, and he had pinned all of it on Serena. Even for that fake Serena, he hurt and humiliated the real muse again and again. "Bernard, are you up there?" Serena's voice came from downstairs. Bernard suddenly raised his head, his eyes bloodshot like an enraged beast. He grabbed the stack of evidence and stumbled downstairs. In the living room, Serena was sitting on the sofa painting her nails, while Noah was still playing with the teddy bear he had broken. Seeing Bernard rush down like a madman, Serena was startled and smeared nail polish on her finger. "Bernard, what is wrong with you?" She stood up, trying to grab Bernard's hand. Bernard shook her off violently and slammed the stack of manuscripts and negatives hard into her face. The papers scattered like snowflakes, their sharp edges cutting through Serena's delicate makeup. "Explain," Bernard roared, his voice terribly hoarse. "What the hell is going on, these letters? These paintings, why do they all have Elena's signature?" Serena saw the things on the ground and her face instantly turned pale. She frantically crouched down to pick them up, but Bernard stepped on her hand. "Ah!" she screamed. "Bernard, you are crazy! You are hurting me, Pain!" Bernard stared at her intently, the hatred in his eyes almost devouring her. "Do you even know what pain is? I treated you as the love of my life, didn't hesitate to hurt my wife and daughter for you, and now you are telling me it was all fake. Number, that is not true." Serena was still trying to make excuses, tears instantly welling up. "It is Elena, she must have forged it. She is jealous of me, she has always been imitating me. Think about it, she is a scheming bitch." "Shut up," Bernard roared. "You still want to lie to me even now. The date on this is from 5 years ago. Elena didn't even know me back then. How could she forge it, travel back in time to forge it?" He squatted down and grabbed Serena by the collar, forcing her to look him in the eyes. "Tell me the truth. Who was the person emailing me back in college?" Serena looked at Bernard's murderous eyes and finally realized she couldn't weasel her way out this time. Her disguise crumbled in an instant, revealing that greedy and ugly true face. It was her. It was Elena. Serena said, trembling. We were roommates. That bookworm only knew how to write and draw all day, didn't even dare to talk to you. I saw her computer was unlocked, so I read her emails. I thought it was kind of fun that a rich kid like you could be so innocent. So I replied to a few fun. Bernard was trembling with rage. You think my feelings are just fun to you? I found out later that you were rich. Serena just threw caution to the wind, crying out. What is wrong with wanting to escape a life of poverty? And when you first saw me, didn't you really like this face of mine? If my family hadn't fallen on hard times, I wouldn't have gone abroad to marry that pervert. Bernard, even though I deceived you at first, I was sincere to you later, sincere. Bernard let out a cold laugh, mocking his own stupidity. Sincere means making up lies that Elena drove you away. Sincere means using a child to come back in guilt. Trip me? Serena, you truly disgust me. He shoved Serena away, throwing her to the ground like garbage. Get out. He pointed at the door. Take your son and get the hell out of my house right now. If you ever dare show your face in front of me again, I'll show you what real hell looks like. Serena slumped on the ground, watching Bernard's resolute retreating figure, the fear in her eyes gradually turning into despair and madness. She had lost completely. She had thought that as long as she drove Elena away, she could secure her position as the mistress of this billion-dollar fortune. But now not only was her dream of marrying into wealth shattered, she had also offended this man who wielded immense power on Wall Street. And what was even more terrifying was that her truly demonic ex-husband was now coming for her life. If she couldn't get the money, death was her only way out. Just then, the doorbell rang. Bernard was about to open the door, thinking Elena had come back. However, as soon as the door opened, two men wearing black ski masks rushed in, holding menacing guns. Don't move. Nobody move. Before Bernard could react, he was struck on the head with a gun butt. His vision went black, and he collapsed to the ground. When Serena saw the two men, she didn't scream. Instead, she revealed a creepy smile. It was her ex-husband, the drug dealer she had long colluded with, ready to execute Plan B once things fell apart. So our plan failed? The leader took off his mask, revealing a brutish face full of flesh and a hideous knife scar. He kicked the unconscious Bernard. No matter, kidnapping this kid is faster than making him pay willingly. He looked at Serena, his gaze sinister. You'd better pray this kid is worth $100 million, or I'll chop you and that deadweight son of yours into pieces and feed you to the dogs. Serena, trembling, hugged the terrified Noah and got up from the ground. He'll definitely pay. He is obsessed with his reputation and terrified of dying. And he is probably desperate to find that bitch Elena right now. As long as we make him call Elena, we'll get the money. She looked at Bernard lying on the ground, a flash of venom in her eyes. Since you've left me with nothing, I'll take your life. At this moment, thousands of miles away in Aspen, Lily and I were sitting in front of the warm fireplace, watching the snow dancing wildly outside the window. Lily had already fallen asleep, holding a new little bunny plushie in her arms. The one we bought at the airport. My phone was still turned off. I didn't know what was happening in Manhattan, and I didn't want to know. All I knew was that from today on, there would be no more lies and betrayal in my world. Only snow, pure, covering, all sin's snow. Bernard woke up in excruciating pain. His head felt like it was about to split open, and everything went black before his eyes. When his vision finally focused, he found himself tied up tight to a worn-out chair, with a foul-smelling rag stuffed in his mouth. It was an abandoned warehouse, piled all around with rusty oil drums and worn-out car parts. The air reeked of gasoline and mold, and cold wind poured in through the broken windows, making him shiver uncontrollably. Serena and her son Noah were huddled in the corner, looking like kidnapped hostages, but they weren't tied up. Meanwhile, the brutish scar-faced man was sitting on an old table, toying with Bernard's expensive custom phone. Oh, awake? The scar-faced man hopped off the table, walked over and yanked the rag out of Bernard's mouth. Young Master Hoffman, did you have a nice nap? Bernard coughed violently a few times, tasting blood in his mouth. As a Wall Street elite, He had never suffered such humiliation, but he quickly forced himself to calm down. "How much do you want?" he asked hoarsely. "Let us go, I'll pay whatever amount you want." Scarface laughed loudly and glanced back at Serena. "Look at that, this is what you call a rich man's awareness, straightforward." He held up one finger. 100 million, USD cash or bearer bonds, transfer immediately. 100 million? Bernard sneered coldly. "My accounts have large transfer limits and require multiple verifications. There is no way it can arrive immediately. Don't try to pull tricks on me." Scarface punched Bernard in the stomach, making Bernard curl up in pain. "I know you rich people all have secret accounts, and," he shoved the phone screen in Bernard's face, "I've already contacted your lawyer, and that wife of yours named Elena for you. As long as they cooperate, money won't be a problem." Hearing Elena's name, Bernard suddenly raised his head. "You contacted Elena, did she answer?" "Oh my, looks like you really care about your wife." Scarface mocked. "Too bad her phone's been off the whole time. Seems like she really doesn't care whether you live or die anymore." Bernard's heart felt like it was being squeezed hard by an ice-cold hand. Turned off, her phone was still turned off. If it were before, even if just for Lily's sake, she would have answered the phone. But now, she had truly cut off all contact with him completely. This sense of despair from being abandoned suffocated him more than the physical pain. "Let me call her," Bernard suddenly said. "I have a way to make her answer." "Oh?" The scarred man raised an eyebrow. "She cares about Lily the most. As long as I say something happened to Lily, she'll definitely answer," Bernard said through gritted teeth. He hated himself for having to use their daughter to deceive her, but this might be his only chance to hear her voice. The scarred man held the phone up to his ear. Bernard dialed the number he knew by heart with trembling hands. "Sorry, the number you have dialed is powered off." Still the same unchanging automated message. Bernard refused to give up and called the voicemail instead. Beep. This time, the voicemail actually connected. "Elena." Bernard's voice choked up, tears mixed with blood flowing into his mouth. "It is Bernard. I know I was wrong. I know the whole truth now. I know the letter from back then was written by you. I know the photos were taken by you. I know I loved the wrong person for these 5 years. I am sorry. I am truly sorry. Please, will you answer the phone? I want to see you even if it is just one last time. I want to apologize to you and Lily. I want to give everything back to you. Elena, I love you." This belated confession seemed so pale and powerless in this foul-smelling warehouse. Serena in the corner, hearing this, showed twisted jealousy on her face. She rushed over and snatched the phone, hanging it up. "Don't listen to his bullshit," she yelled at the scarred man. "This man doesn't want to pay at all. He is stalling for time. He is waiting for the police." The scarred man's eyes turned cold. Indeed, staying on the call too long would get them traced. "Since your wife won't answer the phone, there is nothing we can do." The scarred man raised his gun, the dark muzzle aimed right between Bernard's eyebrows. "Looks like we'll have to kill the hostage after all. Getting money from a dead man is trickier, but safer than from a living one." Just then, police sirens suddenly rang out from outside the warehouse. Sharp, urgent, getting closer and closer. "Damn it, how did the cops get here?" The scarred man's face changed drastically as he grabbed Serena. "You idiot, did you leak our location?" "It wasn't me, it wasn't me," Serena screamed. As it turned out, Bernard's phone had always been equipped with the highest level security tracking system. During the time he was unconscious, his private security team had long since locked onto the location and called the police. "The cops are here, let's go," the scarred man's underling shouted. The scarred man kicked Serena aside and raised his gun, intending to take out Bernard. The witness. Bang. The gunshot rang out. Bernard collapsed in a pool of blood, but he didn't feel the intense pain he had expected. The bullet had gone wide, hitting his thigh. The police rushed in, and the scene descended into chaos. Tear gas smoke filled the air. Bernard gritted through the intense pain, struggling to crawl through the smoke toward the phone lying on the ground. His mind was filled with only one thought. I need to leave Elena a message. I need to tell her I won't divorce. I'll give my life to make it up to her. His fingers touched the ice, cold screen. Using the last of his strength, he dialed that number again. This time, the call actually went through. Hello? That voice that haunted his dreams, that cool and familiar voice, finally came through the receiver. Elena, Bernard opened his mouth, but blood gushed out, blocking his throat. Bernard? The voice on the other end sounded puzzled, with howling wind in the background. If you want to talk about the divorce agreement, contact my lawyer. Other than that, we have nothing to say to each other. That resolute, cold demeanor was like a sharp knife plunged into Bernard's heart. I won't divorce. He desperately tried to speak, but could only produce faint breaths. Save me, Elena, save me. Beep, beep. The call was disconnected. Bernard stared at the darkening screen, the light in his eyes fading bit by bit. At that moment, he finally understood what despair meant. So it turns out, when someone's heart truly dies, your life or death is nothing but an insignificant piece of news to her. The dizziness from excessive blood loss hit him. In the last second before losing consciousness, he seemed to see that early autumn afternoon in the library, that girl quietly drawing, her profile bathed in sunlight. That was the most beautiful paradise he had ever possessed, and now he had sent himself into hell with his own hands. Chapter 8, Snow in Manhattan. Bernard didn't die in that warehouse. The shot only severed an artery in his leg. Though he lost too much blood, he was rushed to the hospital and barely survived. However, the real punishment had only just begun. Serena and her ex-husband were arrested on the spot for kidnapping and extortion. During interrogation, Serena bit at everyone like a rabid dog to get a reduced sentence. Not only did she rat out her ex-husband's drug trafficking network, but she also exposed some shady financial dealings within Bernard's company. Those were some illegal operations Bernard had conducted through offshore accounts to help Serena pay off her debts. This became the last straw that broke the camel's back. Bernard not only faced physical disability, but also an FBI investigation and massive fines. His company's stock price plummeted, and the board held an emergency meeting overnight, kicking him out. He lay in the hospital bed, watching the news reports about his downfall on television, looking as if he had aged 20 years. And I, as his wife in name only, finally appeared at the door of his hospital room on the third day after all this happened. I was wearing a black cashmere coat, carrying no flowers, only a new document. When Bernard saw me, a light instantly ignited in his previously lifeless eyes. He struggled to sit up, pulling at his wound, grimacing in pain, yet still reached out his hand toward me. Elena, you are here. I knew you wouldn't abandon me. His voice trembled, laced with a nearly pathetic pleading. Did you see? That is karma. That bitch Serena is in jail. I've been punished too. I've lost everything, but I still have you, right? I stood at the foot of the bed, not reaching out to hold his hand. I coldly looked at this man who was once so full of vigor, now as pathetic as a drowning dog. You are wrong, Bernard. I placed the documents on the nightstand. You do have nothing now, but that doesn't include me. Bernard's smile froze on his face. What do you mean? This is a new divorce agreement. My tone was calm. Given your current financial situation and the legal charges you are facing, to keep Lily from being implicated and also to preserve what little assets you have left from being confiscated, this is the best option. Bernard picked up the documents, his hands shaking badly. In this agreement, he would transfer all his remaining trust funds and real estate to Lily's name, to be managed by me until Lily comes of age. In exchange, I wouldn't pursue his responsibility for transferring marital assets to Serena during our marriage, and I wouldn't file for divorce while he is in prison. This way he could still preserve the last dignity of a respectable person. You are going to take everything. Bernard looked at me in disbelief. What about me? What am I supposed to do after I get out of prison? That is your problem. I looked into his eyes. Those eyes that once made me fall deeply into them, now left with nothing but murkiness and fear. Bernard, The moment you pushed Lily away, the moment you threw our memories away like trash, you had already lost everything. But I love you. That letter, that misunderstanding, love. I interrupted him, smiling, that smile carrying infinite sarcasm. Bernard, you only love yourself. You love that affectionate version of yourself, that victim version of yourself, that high and mighty savior version of yourself. You never truly loved me, nor did you love Serena. We were all just props for your self-indulgent sentimentality. I leaned down and whispered in his ear. Oh right, forgot to tell you. I met a painter in Aspen. He really appreciates my paintings. He said there is light in my eyes. That is something you never saw. Bernard's pupils contracted sharply, tears bursting from his eyes. Elena, don't go, please. I straightened up, taking one last look at this man who ruined my youth and nearly ruined my life. Just sign it. This is the last thing you can do for Lily as a father. With that, I turned and left the ward. Behind me came Bernard's desperate wailing, like a dying beast. At that moment, I didn't look back. Walking out of the hospital doors, snowflakes began to fall from the Manhattan sky. This was the second snow since winter began. Lily was standing by the car waiting for me, wearing a red down jacket looking like a little snowman. Seeing me come out, she threw herself into my arms. Mommy, are you done with your business? All done. I held her warm little hand tightly. So are we going home? Going home. Not back to that cold Hampton mansion, but to our new home in Europe. There is snow from the Alps, warm red wine, the air of freedom, and a brand new future that belongs to us. The car started and drove into the swirling snow. In the rearview mirror, the hospital building that had imprisoned Bernard, along with his vanity and arrogance, grew farther and farther away, eventually disappearing into the vast whiteness. A snowfall finally buried everything.